Hi, family. My name is Minister Eileen Nicole or Eileen Nicole. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight, I just wanted to talk freely about just some things that have been on my mind. I took some notes, so if you see me looking down, um, that is why. Also, I just got off work, so I'm like, not, extra. But anyway, this is not about that. This is about um, really what's been on my mind as it pertains to God and our mission and what's been going on in the world and how it's it's very important that we are paying attention to what's happening right now. Hold on just a sec. If we don't continue to pay attention or start paying more attention, we are going to get caught up in the rigmarole of being of the world. And when I say being of the world, I mean being driven by emotion, being driven by what you see as opposed to what you don't see, and being driven by not knowing your purpose and what God has for you to do right now in this time. If you are distracted, if you are worried about the wrong things, if you are not tuned into God, if you are not repentant, if you're not fasting and praying, if you don't believe in God, you are part of that. You are part of the world because there's nothing else for you. So you're going to be left out here in the wilderness, stuck and not having an actual plan because you expect this government, you expect anybody else to get a plan for you, to get things going for you, except for God. And He's the only one that has ever come with a plan. Jesus's plan is he's still working his plan. From 2,000 years ago, his life's work is still working today. Now, it's a lot of people that will say, oh, well, Jesus ain't coming to save you, but he already did. And it was in this is a time right now where the church is supposed to step up and do what God taught us to do. It's all throughout the Bible. It's all in the spirit. If you fast and pray, it is permeating through us. But a lot of us, including myself, have not been doing what we're supposed to be doing. Okay, so we have to get things together. Now, certain churches, have been warning, certain churches have been playing around. Okay, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we as the church should be preparing our families, preparing the rest of the church together in our circle of influence. We are supposed to be controlling the chaos that is in your direct circle of influence. That's our job as Christians. That's our God as our that's our job as saints under the Lord Jesus Christ, under the blood of Christ. We're supposed to be controlling this chaos in our circle of influence through the lens of love. If we're not doing that, we're not doing our job. We're not supposed to be talking about prosperity. We're not supposed to be talking about dating, relationships. All these things are a part of life. Don't get me wrong. They are a part of life. And sometimes in their correct context are important parts of life. But right now, sustainability of life is the most important things. And those things will be null and void, or they'll be pointless if you don't have a life to live them. Okay. And so I'm going to just go over some of the notes that I have, just some of the things that have been happening that I've been seeing, and we need to be very well aware. But I do know for sure that God has a plan. I know we all know that, but for me, it's not just a virtue statement. It is an understanding that he does have a plan. And I'm excited about that plan, but also I know what my job is in that plan. And you should be getting with God, fasting and praying to ask him what your job in that plan is, because it's going to be an important role. The chosen, I talk about the chosen, and the chosen are the people who answer God's call, the call of Christ, right? So if you are not answering that call, it's because you're not chosen. The chosen hear his voice. He says this, he said this, and he meant it. So let's get into some of the stuff. So recently there was a flood. There's been all kinds of different natural disasters happening, right? The earth is, for lack of a better word, pissed off at humanity for what we've been doing, what we've been allowing to happen to our fellow human beings, to just nature, to animals, to children. The church, let's just talk about the church. The church has been sitting by and participating in some of it. Now, I'm not talking about people who are just regular people, and have no dealings in doing any of this degeneracy, but we've been silent, and so that means that we're complicit, even though I know you're not complicit. But it just, that's what it's saying. That's what it's, without saying it, without protesting it, that's basically what is happening. And when people sit there and try to shame you and say, well, don't judge a pedophile, don't judge a whore that's out here allowing herself to be exploited, and her freedom is another woman's slavery. Don't judge that. Don't judge. I don't particularly like the whole shaming me to shut me up, because that's another way to, they're doing the same thing that they say that you're doing. They're judging you for calling out the truth, and our job is to expose evil. So when they say you're judging, no, I'm not judging. I'm exposing. I'm looking at what it says here, and I am judging in a way. I'm not judging. I'm not condemning you, but I am judging what you're doing, if it's a righteous act or not, and if it's, how are we going to control chaos, or control it in our circle of influence, if we're not able to view what's happening and say, hey, this is not sustainable to life. If we can't do that, then we're not listening to Christ, and we're outside of doing what our job is. So don't listen to people when they try to shame you into doing what God told us to do, which is to expose evil. Okay. Now, there's been a bunch of natural disasters. There's recently been one in Libya. There's been a flooding, and it's been like 20,000 people. 11,000 confirmed has passed away, and as many as 20,000 people, has been gone. They've been missing, or they've been unreported. They can't find them. And this is kind of similar to what happened with Hurricane Katrina, with the levees broke, the dam broke, or not the dam, but the levees broke. So in Libya, the dam broke, but in Hurricane Katrina, the levees broke. Either way, it was poor infrastructure, and all this water flooded the area. Now, I don't know if you've been paying attention also, but there's been a flooding in China as well. There was a flooding in Brazil. So there's been floodings all over the earth. Okay. Now, this is something that we should be paying attention to. Okay. Now, this is a lot of people that have gone by the wayside, that have been really just kind of caught up in all of the atrocities that have been happening all over the world. Part of this is because certain interests have had the agency to run amok all over the world and do what they want to do to humanity. And so that's what part of this is. Part of it is God's judgment for the church not saying or doing anything or protesting this mess. And then the other part is on the people. The people have agency enough to say something. Okay, not just the leadership in the church, not just the leadership in government, but the people ourselves. We also have a responsibility to other human beings. That's the first and second commandment, which is to love thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, and body, and to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. So if we're breaking those first two commandments, look at what's happening to the earth. That's us as humans breaking those commandments, and we have to get back on track. All right. And so there's also there was an earthquake in Morocco, which is actually Algeria is right in between Morocco and Libya, right? So there's this major 6.8 I think measurement earthquake in Morocco, and then that flooding in Libya, which is interesting. Now, the problem with both of these areas is the heavy human trafficking situation going on in these countries. It has been, especially with Libya, and ever since, Gaddafi passed away or was killed in the town square. Um, the country is just kind of fallen down pretty bad, and the victims are the women and children and some of the men, because you know when you feel like you have no hope or you have nothing to look forward to, a lot of people will go to crime. A lot of people will go and join in with evil against their fellow man to try to survive. And that's not to say that that's okay, but that's I'm just pointing out this is what's happening there. So this is why you have so much corruption, because people don't feel like there isn't any other option. It's not okay, but there's a solution in there somewhere. If they see an option, they may choose a different option. I hope you get that. It's not okay, but my point is that if they start seeing better options, different options, they won't choose the worst possible option there is. Like here in the US we say, "Oh, the lesser of two evils." I hate that. I don't want to choose either evil. Like, no, I can choose righteousness. That's also an option. And that's what I'll choose. But I just wanted to say that, this isn't just happening in, Africa. This is headed towards the US. I'm not sure if you guys know, but the US has been a complete poop show in the last couple of years since this new incumbent has been in office. And I'll just say it just seems like, I don't know. It's just real interesting. I'll just say that. Real interesting. Things have been happening that shouldn't be happening in this country. Everything, it's like all the world's a stage. There's so many things to pay attention to. It's hard to pay attention to the right things. There's also so many legitimate distractions that you do kind of lose a little bit of hope. Like, well, what's happening, and what's the most important thing for me to pay attention to, and more importantly, what do I do once I am paying attention? Like, how do I respond to this? And that's what's important. That's what the church should be listening to. But this is God's job. This is his pay grade. And he knows what to do, what we should all be doing. We should all, for one, be repenting, fasting, praying, and obeying, and then also moving as the body of Christ once we get our purpose for what we're supposed to be doing in the body, which is to control our circle, control the chaos in our direct circle of influence, okay, starting with our immediate families. All right, so now I do want to show you, like, I have a lot of interactions with God. God interacts with me. I do a lot of fasting, praying, and so I remember recently here, not too distant in the past, but recently here, fairly recently, God did show me a dream where he said many will perish because we are focused on the wrong things. He showed me like a large bag of people, and it was really kind of like souls that will perish because he showed me they're focused on the wrong thing. They're focused on the wrong thing, and he was sad about it. And I was sad about it. I still am sad about it. And I think that we should really start paying more attention to what God is asking us to do. And that's just really what I'm going to end this video. All of these things are happening. All these wars, rumors of wars, all these different natural disasters. Maybe some of them are unnatural. There are people coming and going that shouldn't be coming and going, because there should be, some people like to say, oh, well, God, says you shouldn't shut out your stranger, but God is also a God of order. And there should be an order to things. You shouldn't just be letting things just happen, because there's a bunch of people coming in this country and they don't even have a tally on the amount of people are coming. Does that sound orderly to you? And who's paying for it? Because that there's some order when they know how much money is going out. There's some order there, but they don't know how many people is being serviced. So I think that that's important to know. Why is the traditional process being thwarted for this new raw, and it feels very disrespectful to the people that come in the right way, either through work or school, or just getting through the visa process. It just seems like all of that is like, oh, well, don't worry about that. And the people that have been trying to get in correctly are, it's like whatever. It's just disrespectful. And then it's also disrespectful to the American populace, the proletariat, because we don't get a say, for one, and for two, well, we feel like we don't, but I'm saying something right now. We're not supposed to say anything. We're supposed to be, we're just supposed to let anything happen. Anybody should just be able to come in our house and open the refrigerator and get a sandwich, and we're not supposed to say nothing because we're Americans. And we're supposed to love it because, we're bigots if we don't. That's weird. Okay. And like I said, I'm not going to allow somebody to shame me. It feels very evil. It feels very out of order, and we should not be allow it to be happening. Now, if there's some order to it, fine. Nobody has any problems when expats come to this country the right way. Nobody protests that, right? Because there's an order to it. But what we don't want is this influx of people who are not vetted, who are not counted, and we're the ones paying for it. Now they're in here with our children. I remember the last time a bunch of immigrants came in, and the country was flooded with bed bugs. I mean, it just randomly, a whole bunch of everybody, and I didn't even know bed bugs were real. I thought that was just a nighttime story that my grandma used to tell me. I just thought it was a story. And then all of a sudden they're real. I'm like, oh, people are actually getting them. There's all kind of videos on, how to get rid of, it's just like, wow, this is weird. And so now COVID is kicking up again. So I just think that with all of these are all legitimate distractions. Don't forget that. These are legitimate distractions, things that you should be focused on. But the main thing that you should be focused on is God. And when you focus on God, ask him about, I would fast and I would pray and I would ask him what my job is to do. How do I repent? How do I control the chaos in my direct circle of influence? Because that's your job. How do I do that? How do I control the chaos in my direct circle of influence? If we can have enough Christians doing that, I think we can get some things under control. But don't sit down and act like it's somebody else's job, because it's not. It's our job. Okay, so that's how I'm going to end the video today, but I do still have a few more things that I'm going to add here. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.